it's actually see-through, right?
Check it out, man.
Sirens busy jiving. Guess I'll make my move. Crazy feet on Ravelli. Nothing.
Our next guest is one of Australia's most sought-after drummers. He moves around the kit like a ninja with his sword. Please welcome Gerry Pantazis.
What was that thing about a ninja?
Well, because I read an article about that drummers magazine that you gave an interview with. He said that you move around gracefully around the kit, and I just thought I was going to use the Karate Kid because I thought he must be like the Karate Kid on the kit, you know. So I used the ninja to the sword. Man. You know, you've got this martial arts sort of approach to playing the drums.
Yeah,
you know?
I can tell you for a fact that is as furthest from the truth as anything, man. Like a ninja, kidding me?
It's good.
I'm lucky to sit upright behind a kit. Well, I'm sitting back. I'm pretty laid back right now.
And I noticed you got a 414 there.
Yes, I do. Yeah.
Excellent.
I've just taken it from the overheads that I would normally use to record the kit. I thought I'll just use it.
Good choice of microphone.
Is it all right?
Yeah, terrific.
Yeah, they're great. They're great mics, man. I bought a pair of these.
I had two of them, and both of them have been stolen.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
A couple of years ago. They're not there. No. No, but the ones that I had the, you know how you got the patterns on the front of the microphone? Mine had the switch. You can go, not the digital switch, the actual switch.
These are the newer ones that got all the digital settings on it.
That's right.
You know, you can
and
just
they're great.
Yeah,
they're great.
Oh man, Pete, I bought these. They're a stereo matched pair. So the schematics on the that came in the box, they're pretty much identical, man, which is brilliant. You know, and I bought them. When you remember when our dollar was really strong against the American?
Yeah.
I bought these in a music shop in LA, and what it would cost me to buy one here, I bought two there, delivered, and I paid the import duty, which was a little bit, you know, but I still came out on top.
That's amazing.
And these microphones are, man, I love them on my as overheads on the kit. I just think they're really warm and articulate, you know, and I just set it to it's a cardioid pattern for the overheads, but I use them on guitars, vocals,
everything,
percussion. Yeah, man, it's such a great. It's a great mic.
I mean, the benefit of having those microphones is the patterns that you can do MS miking. You ever done MS miking before? Yeah,
that's the one with that sort of funny.
That's the best
top and bottom.
I love recording that way because when you're mixing, you can duplicate the cardioid pattern and throw that out of phase, and then when you bring that in the mix. It's amazing, and I learnt that from an audio engineer that I worked with in the late 90s who was doing a lot of country records, and I was his assistant, and he had a Calric microphone that was about this big, and it was about this wide, and it had a power supply, and he put that in front of about 10 foot away from the drum kit, and when he was getting the sounds of all the individual microphones, he said, have a listen to this. He muted all the mics, put the Calrec up, because the preamp to it has all the schematics to make the MS or XY or whatever you want, so it moves the microphones inside the capsule, right?
Oh, wow, okay.
To do its thing. It's incredible. Like, this thing costs a lot of money. And so you can do all your settings on the preamp. Anyway, brought it up on these two channels, man, and I've gone, holy shit, that sounds better than the individual microphones, you know? Because it was a very natural. You just want to use that. It was a natural, and he said, don't tell them anything, I won't even show them. And then when we were in mix down, he took all the individual mics out and placed just that, and they're going, wow, what a sound, that it's so natural, you know?
Yeah, and it captures the room the room sound. Yeah,
and all you need is a bit of kick and a bit of snare, and you're away. You know.
Yeah. So that's with using the. So basically, that whole thing of the bottom mic and the top mic, you're using a cardioid.
Well, one's a figure eight pattern and one's a cardioid.
One's a figure.
Okay. No, it's
so
not.
Does it matter which one's on?
Well, you can. I think the top one I've got to remember correctly. Now, if anyone's listening to this out there, you can correct me. But I think it's from what I remember, it's an omnidirectional up the top, and the mid side, the bottom one, which is that side, is a figure eight pattern. So it's
figure eight.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you're in the lube. You know how the figure eight goes like that. You're in the lube with the omnidirectional, and or you can tailor it. I think you can use any pattern, cardioid or omnidirectional, depending on what your poison is in terms of what you're recording. You know, how
I've got my two room mics set up in the side here in each corner. They seem to work pretty well, but I want to try that technique and just see what happens. I guess
you'd love it, man.
Yeah,
you're gonna love it.
Yeah.
You won't go back to the room mics. I'm telling you, it's awesome.
I know. Yeah, probably. Yeah.
I mean, room mics are great, but you got to have the right room to make them sound. You know, I don't know. I'm not saying that your room's not the right room, but I just know at Woodstock, for instance, it was hard to get a room sound because of the drum room being so small. But when we went, I mean, you'd get a great sound from the room mics, no worries, but when we went to Alan Eaton's, because he's got such a big space, that's when you can really manipulate the room mics, you know. Yeah. And it sounds awesome.
But you'd be in the big, with Eaton's, the drum rooms, you do it in the big room. If you're setting up a session, you'd probably do it in that big live room where the orchestra would set up.
That's right.
Yeah,
that's right.
Because the small room, the drum room, it's kind of big enough, and I've done countless of sessions in that room there, and it's a good sounding room.
Yeah,
but you need the space for that figure eight, that configuration to really work.
Yeah, that's right.
I got a friend of mine. Actually, now you just jogged my memory. A friend of mine who's got a badass studio out in near St Andrews.
Oh, right, okay.
No, you're thinking of Oakland.
Yeah.
Is it Oakland?
Yeah, that's right.
Oakland. Yeah, that's killer. Yeah, the guy out there, is it Jared, I think his name is? Yeah.
It's a big room.
Yeah, he's got that's a big room, man. That's really massive, you know. And, he had room mics set up everywhere. Yeah. I mean, it was pretty overkill, but, I mean if you've got the mics, you've got the setup.
That's it. Do whatever.
What the heck?
Do whatever.
Yeah, do whatever. So...
but your friend in St Andrews?
Yeah, he's got a beautiful sounding drum room, and he actually showed me that technique. Now come to think of it.
Oh, right, okay. Yeah, I'm a fan because I've recorded. I was a fan of John Lee Hooker, and I used to listen to a lot of John Lee Hooker as a young teenager or in my late teens. And I was always wondering, how did they get that sound? So when the internet came about, I could research it. I found out that they were running into the microphone into a valve preamp and a valve compressor, but they were using a Neumann, a really big. It was like a 48. Have you ever seen a 48? Anyway, I got a lend of a 48, and I had brought a Summit preamp and a Universal Audio compressor. And I was recording this Native American singer-songwriter, and I was living at that stage in this old house that had 12-foot ceilings.
Right.
And we went into the lounge room, and I just put that mic 10 meters away from him, and he sang and played acoustic guitar, and I ran it through the system.
Yeah.
And when I played it back, man, I was shocked. I'm going, that's the sound. It had that leathery sound, you know, and it was like awesome. I know how to do that now. It was my biggest thrill as a recording engineer.
Yeah, cool,
you know?
man. Great, yeah.
So
well, you need to get out more then, mate, if it's your biggest thrill. No, I'm kidding, man. I'm kidding.
So how's your metronome coping in Coronaville?
The metronome. You mean life in general?
Yeah.
Is that what we're kind of getting?
Yeah, that's it, man. You know.
Yeah. Look, I think it's I think coping pretty well. Yeah. I mean, doing the whole self-isolation thing and not going out only only when you need to. It's pretty much my way of life. It's been like that for the last 20-something years, you know. I'd rather just stay home and work from home.
Yeah,
you know, do sessions.
That. Yeah.
And then, you know, I mean, I love gigging and playing live and all that sort of stuff. So I do miss that. And I'm missing, you know, hanging out and all that sort of stuff. But it's just... We just got to go through this whole thing. We just got to weigh it out, and hopefully the smart people can come up with a solution to what's something that we're all confronted with, you know. Because it's a pretty nasty one, this thing, and you know, we don't want people to die, and no. I don't want people to die, and you know, and it's the more we kind of self-isolate that and just distancing from each other. I think it's a good thing. We'll come back out of it, man. I know it's killing our industry. Yeah, it's killed. I can safely say, there's nothing going on. It's going to take a while to kind of get it back.
Yeah.
But you know, if we can hang in there as much as we can and think positively,
absolutely,
we'll come back out the other end. Yeah. You know, I'm pretty. I think that's the only way to think about it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just taking it day by day.
Yeah, totally, Pete.
Because you don't,
I'm the same.
You don't really know what tomorrow will bring. And I think, and that's what's exciting about being at home, that as long as you're creative and you're contributing in some way and you're looking after your health, then tomorrow is a different day and it's going to bring something different. But when you do go shopping, what's the vibe on the streets? And do you find it's a little bit sort of this uneasy tension sort of vibe?
Oh yeah. I had a look. I try and avoid going to the supermarket. My wife's she's just a gun at dealing with all that sort of stuff. And but the last couple of trips I've gone with her, you know, and helped out, all sort of stuff. So, but I had an interesting confrontation with somebody in one of the aisles. I was just checking out. Oh, in one of the aisles, yeah. Like, I was just. I wasn't in the middle, right? I was just on the opposite side of the aisle, looking at something from a distance. So there was plenty of room for people to walk by and walk through me, you know, or around me, or whatever you want to call it, you know. And I'm checking out this. There was like I was after some. Like a spicy, like these spicy peanuts or chili coated peanuts that a student of mine had given me a couple of weeks ago, and I'd finished them, and I got to find these things. Right? They're like an Indian brand, right? And so I'm looking at the aisle, I'm looking at this stuff, going, oh, where is it? And there's this guy just standing there next to me, and I just hear him say, "Oh, get out of the way, mate." And I've looked at him, I've gone, excuse me? He goes, you're taking up, make up your mind. Are you standing there or are you moving on? I said, there's plenty of room for you to walk by. It's okay. And just the way he said it was just like, I just didn't expect that, you know. And I just thought, what a rude prick, man. I just thought, you know, I'm minding my own business. I've left enough room for people to walk by me. There was nobody else that made any sort of complaint, because there was people walking by all the time, except this one guy. And I just went, this is why I don't go shopping.
Yeah, I know. I know. Well,
just to deal with
I remember
morons like that, you know.
When this first happened, I went to the IGA and I got nervous. It made me nervous because I was in there and I'm looking at, and people are like scavengers. I swear to God, there was these pallets of toilet paper, and they were, you know, that high off the pallet. And I swear to God, I was expecting to just do my daily shopping. By the time I did one round of the shopping and I finished my shop and came back to where the pallet was, I swear to God, the toilet paper had gone from there to there within a span of 15 minutes. I couldn't believe it. And I'm just looking at people, and they were just frothing at the mouth, and the way they were behaving, it was just So I said, that's it, I'm not going to these places ever again. I don't give a fuck if I don't have, I'll wipe my ass with leaves outside if I have to, you know what I mean? Like, but you know, that's where I got to, because it just, that uneasiness of that tension, just, it's like going to, it's like entering a fight when you're, like if you're fighting in a ring, if you're seeing a boxing match or something, and everyone's hyped up around in the audience. It's a bit like that, isn't it? Yeah. It's like everyone's hyped up, ready to go, you know?
Yeah, I kind of got that impression that, there was definitely, there's a lot of tension sort of there, but there was also some really nice people.
That's right, that's right.
I've bumped into a few, and there's a lot more families going shopping now collectively sort of thing, even though you're only supposed to take 2 people or something like that, I think it is. I don't know. Anyway, whatever. But, if it's just saying hello to someone, or just, excuse me, no worries, that's all cool. But, there are some people out there that just, it's kind of bringing to light maybe the Australian sort of psyche, where people are just in it for themselves, and it's just me. I got to grab that for me and screw everybody else. And I think that's, when we're all kind of spruiking, we're all in this together. Well, yeah, some of us are, and some of you aren't.
That's right.
So,
that's right.
So what do you do? How do you react to that? So I just react by kind of not just disassociating myself with that sort of attitude. And all of my colleagues, I know, that I've spoken to over the last couple of weeks, and I make the effort to ring up at least once a week and just check in on just having a chat. And people ring me as well, so which is really nice. Yeah. And we just talk and see how you're going. That's it. There's not much you can do for each other when you're sort of isolating. But geez, it's amazing how better you feel
after a
when
conversation.
You get a call.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then you know that you've made them feel good as well.
That's it.
It's kind of like we're doing here, Pete.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. So before being quarantined, you were working on Shrek, is that right?
Yeah, I was doing a musical. Yeah.
So what was the vibe leading up to being quarantined? Like, you were working. Did you feel the vibe a bit weird in January, or was something changing?
It was definitely. We were all talking about it. And we weren't sure how long the show was going to go anyway. But when it came in, like when you couldn't play to more than 500 people a night, sort of thing, or mass gatherings, that's when it kind of got real. Yeah. And there was some decisions. We were kind of lucky because on an average night, the show wasn't selling that much. So we could have actually kept on going. Yeah. That was and I think the producers were keen to kind of keep that going, but you can't do it because in the public eye, it's like you can't just do that when it's getting worse.
That's right.
So we were happy to look. The vibe in the whole company was great. The company management were really helpful with everybody. Obviously with the actors and those performers, but also with the band, and also with the crew. Yeah. They made a great effort to keep us in the loop. Yeah. Of what's going to happen. But look, we knew it was going to stop. Yeah. We knew. Yeah. It was just a question of when. Yeah. And
so when did you actually stop?
I can't remember, man. So it was a couple of weeks. It must have been now. Is it 4 weeks ago?
So you stopped at the same time we stopped. About the Grand Prix, around the Grand Prix.
So that time I saw you at Birds. Yeah. For the Steve Smith gig. Yeah. That's when we stopped. Yeah. So whenever that was.
So you stopped that week when Steve Smith was playing.
I think so. Yeah.
Because I remember you came after a gig, didn't you?
Oh, yeah. I came after the Saturday night show. Yeah. But yeah, no. You know what? Actually, we did. We went in and did the Wednesday matinee and the Wednesday night show, and then we had a company meeting on Thursday, and that was it. Yeah. Then I had to go in Friday morning and get my gear. Yeah. Collect my equipment, and then everything just stopped. But the town, Melbourne, was like really interesting leading up to that. It was always hard to get a parking space. I know. I mean, if during the show, during the run of the show, because you could never, you'd have to book a like one of those Wilson Parks or something like that. You could never get a street park. Well, as the weeks went on, could get a street park, no problem, man. And so it was. Melbourne was becoming a bit of a ghost town.
Yeah.
With all the restaurants closing, all the cafe bars, theatre. Man, it was just it was pretty sad actually.
It was a downward spiral to something that we had no idea of the consequences. That's what I found. Like I remember walking through the Jazz Corner Hotel and seeing a whole bunch of international tourists gearing up for the Grand Prix.
Yeah.
And when I saw them, and I just thought, there's no way that car race is going to happen. I knew that. And I don't think they knew that. I think they did, but you could see the expression on people. There was this sort of somber look on people. That's what I found. There was a lot of somber. And as we've rolled on to where we are now, I was watching some footage. I don't watch the news at all, but I happened to come across some footage on SBS News last night, which totally freaked me out, man. I don't know if you saw it, but there was a little boy at a train station in New York selling lollies, and the police officers came and dragged him away, and then his mother came. She goes, "That's my son," and they wouldn't release the kid to the mother.
Wow.
And he's my little dog Rudy, and
Rudy.
and they picked him up, and they threw away all his lollies. It was the saddest thing I've ever seen, and it was like fascism. It really was like fascism,
Yeah.
And then I saw this other footage in another segment, which was in California, all these cars on the freeway lining up for food handouts. Did you see that on the freeway?
No, I haven't seen that.
Man, it was unbelievable. It was unbelievable, and I just think, in some way, we're around the corner from that in Australia. But man, I've got to tell you, America's in a really bad state. And knowing a lot of jazz musicians who have passed as well in New York has been heartbreaking,
Well, a lot of... Sorry about that. Was my drink bottle making that. It's actually a pretty cool sound, isn't it? There you go. Oh, man. Here's the other trick I do with it.
That's the way. That's a nice bottle.
It's not bad, is it?
It's very colourful.
Yeah.
Is it?
Right.
It's actually see-through, right?
Check it out, man. It's like uncorking a bottle of wine,
That's it.
Sorry, man.
No, that's all good.
Self-isolation. That's what happens, man. You go a bit. Yeah. No, we were saying about jazz musicians, or just in New York. I mean, a few of them, some of the legends have passed away.
Yeah, I know.
Because of this damn thing, And again, there's no work. I mean, Broadway shut down. Broadway was the first thing to shut down in New York, which was just, unheard of.
That's right.
But, then everything else followed, again. But, it's a scary thing. But they all, those sort of highly density cities, where like New York, they all live on top of each other. Apartments. It's just everywhere in that city. That's why this thing's spreading like wildflowers. It's kind of nuts. And they're struggling to contain it. Whereas here in our country, it's a bit of an urban sprawl. You know what I mean? So, I mean, there's been a lot of cases, diagnosed and deaths as well, which is never a good thing. But on scale to what's happening in States and definitely Europe.
Oh man, Italy, Spain.
Like Europe. I mean, it's in Italy. I mean, no wonder they had the biggest sort of death rate there or whatever, because they all live on top of each other.
That's right.
So when you got that and you got a virus that spreads quite easily, it's not a good thing, Pete. It's not a good thing.
No, it's not. And but it's not. I'm not trying to be a downer in bringing these sort of topic up, but I think it's necessary. Man, no. I think it's necessary to talk about it because we are in these situations, and I am seeing things unfold in front of me, and I am researching a lot of stuff. And I think in America's case now, I mean, I don't know because I've never been to America, but from what I understand, from listening to some reporters that I look on YouTube, and I really respect these reporters. Yeah. And they have a lot of content about politics and social commentary about why they're in such a mess. And I don't know, Trump today released a message saying that America's going to cease their funding to the World Health Organization because he's blaming them for the situation in New York or America generally. I mean, I don't know, man. You know what I mean? I don't know if you can do that. Like it's.
Because they I'm not going to get. I don't know much about the way they fund things over there, but he's in a position of power where if the American government is funding the World Health Organization, he can pull the funding, but he's trying to poke. From what it looks like, he's kind of handballing the blame back to them.
Absolutely.
But
the biggest point. The biggest point, and this is what I reckon, that capitalism is to blame for this situation that we're in, especially with resources, because at the end of the day, capitalism only will manufacture something if it's profitable. They're not going to have stockpiles of masks, ventilators, and any necessary items that we need as a social, like hospitals, nurses, doctors, transport workers, all the necessary things that we need, teachers, all those things that we need. There should be stockpiles of things that if we end up in this situation again, that they've got the resources to go to and deal with the situation. So, and then we can save people's lives. But see, capitalism does not invest unless it's profitable, and having things in a warehouse stacked away for a disaster is not profitable, and that's the bottom line,
Well, that's true, and I mean, how lucky are we that we have healthcare workers in this country that are on the front line, well, in any country, around the world.
Absolutely.
I mean, when you think about all this, the amount of greed that billionaires and all that sort of stuff possess, money and stuff like that, CEOs and all that stuff don't matter that much anymore.
No.
I mean, the government should be like really. I have these discussions with my wife sometimes, and I just think, why aren't our taxes being put to health and education? Bottom line. Well, why aren't they the first ones to get all the major funding to provide for us? Right. I mean, that's what we're paying these guys for.
But our taxes goes to construction and sporting events and stuff.
Yeah, I can understand we need infrastructure, and it needs to be sort of, we need roads, we need buildings, we need transport, absolutely. But it's got to be, maybe the big three, health,
that's right,
education, and infrastructure,
hospitals, medicine,
research, all that stuff.
But what I was going to say was, in Germany, they are giving 5 years free rent.
Wow.
5 years.
Okay.
Free rent. And that's because...
Did you read that somewhere?
I did. And that's because they're a democratic, socialist society. Yeah. And then what I also found out, that in France, you don't pay HECS. There's no private universities. The university is all funded by the government, and their fees are $200 a year to go to university.
Gee, man, I know, kind of wish we had that here,
Oh, yeah,
Jeez. Well, we did once upon a time.
In the 70s, before we were...
I think it was up until, I think it might have been as late as up to
86.
The late 80s.
It was 86.
Because,
it was 86, 87 when it hit. Yeah, but that was... Even then, I was a bit too young to access it, but I've still got a HECS debt. That I'm paying off. Yeah, that I'm paying off.
Man. What did you study?
I studied fine arts,
Yeah,
which was a total waste of time. I've got to say, I mean, I don't want to discourage people from doing any arts courses, but I've got to tell you,
really?
I mean, I don't know. I mean, it's good for yourself, your ego. For for 3 years, you think you're an artist, and then you and then you come out of it and you go, I'm not an artist. Yeah. I'm just a pleb, But
Pete, just trust me, man. You're not a pleb, mate.
I just want to touch on. You stem from I didn't realise your father played piano.
Yeah, he was a professional musician. Yeah,
he was so he used to play weekly or like daily.
Well, he before he migrated to Australia, he was working because my father's from Egypt.
Oh, right.
From Port Said. Yeah, right. Greek Egyptian.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, so before they were kicked out of the country, because they weren't nationalists, he was a working musician. That's what he was doing. So when he came to Melbourne, he just went from gig to gig. Like back in the day when there were residencies at restaurants and at cabaret places and stuff like that. So Dad was always in a gig that would play, 5 nights a week, 6 nights a week, and you'd get the Sunday night off.
Yeah. So he could. He was at a high level. He could read and write music and perform it.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Man, yeah. Dad. Well, Dad's retired now, but he had has probably still got it. A tremendous ear. Like someone could sing him something, and he'd work out the chords and then write it out, and then back somebody or whatever,
Awesome.
But he had all those skills down,
So where did he used to play in Melbourne? Like, what was that his profession?
Well, yeah. The last sort of resident gig that he had was at the Melbourne Oyster Bar on King Street.
Okay.
Remember that joint?
Yeah.
Yeah. It was like him and a drummer.
Yeah, right.
And he was there for 6 nights a week. My father, supported the family with being a musician.
Yeah, right.
That's what he did.
Incredible.
Supported myself and my brother.
Incredible. And then gave you the influence to take on several. Because you started with piano, and then when you went to bass guitar, and then
That's correct.
You found the drum kit. So how that's staggering stages to get to the drum kit. What made you stick to that? Because I know when I was a kid, I tried different musical instruments, but nothing really stuck.
Yeah, and that's what happened with me. I tried the piano for I think it was like a year or so, and we're taking lessons off my father.
Yeah,
and then that didn't quite. Actually, both my brother and I started at the same time. He was the first one to drop out. I kept on going for a little bit longer, and then he picked up the guitar and never looked back, really. And so I tried the bass because Dad had a friend of his that was a bass player and could teach. And I stuck with that for about a year. And again, it wasn't something that was sort of, again, like what you experienced. You just didn't click. It just didn't work or whatever reason, And then I asked Dad, can I have some drum lessons? And he said, well, you've given up 2 instruments already. What makes you think you're going to carry on with this one? I said, I don't know. Yeah. But from the first lesson, I knew it was, I gravitated towards this instrument. Yeah. And it was something that I could, I really enjoyed working on and practicing, and my lessons were a lot of fun, and I started doing that when I was 12. Yeah, right. Taking drum lessons. So it was pretty late, I guess, by today's standards. 12 years old, you're seeing kids on YouTube that are like bloody embryos that are playing drums.
I know, right? It's incredible. It's incredible.
Sorry, man?
It's incredible.
Oh, well, they are. You see these kids that are like, 6 years old, 7 years old, like playing like they're like just guns. It's kind of scary. But I mean, like I said, I was 12, so I was kind of like a late bloomer by today's standards, But I used to, I was progressing pretty quickly through stuff, and I really, like I said, I really enjoyed practicing and having lessons. They weren't like a chore. You didn't have to force me to go in the practice room to work
but
on
having
stuff,
that nucleus around you is
family.
The family nucleus of all being musicians. would really help you along that journey. You know, like you're not sort of struggling against it. You know what I mean? It could go either way. Sometimes you can go.
That's
No,
true.
I'm not going to be a musician. I'm going to be a doctor or whatever it is. Or you really embrace that cultural lineage that your parents have gone through, you know.
I guess so. Yeah, and I used to. My whole predicament was I loved the drums and I loved music because I was surrounded by it all the time. But I also loved sport too, and I was pretty active in cricket and football and tennis and those sort of activities. You know, I had this. I remember as a sort of a leisure thing. I'd go to the local tennis court on a Sunday morning and have some games with some of my mates playing tennis, you know. And then they said, "Oh, you should come and play competition on the Saturday." And I go, "Well, what time's that?" And they say it was like 1 o'clock. And I go, "Can't do it, man. I got my drum lesson then." You know, that was the decision.
Yeah.
It was like, "No, can't do it." You know.
I mean,
can we change the comp? You know.
Yeah. I mean, if you had stuck with tennis, would have been more profitable.
Absolutely, 100%, man. I mean, you know,
AFL.
That's
you know.
Yeah. Well, you know, throughout my high school years, I was big on cricket and big on football, but I had to stop because playing football in year 9, and I wasn't a big sort of cat. Man, the year 9s were like giants. Some of them were like, totally. You know, and so I'd already been playing drums up until that point for maybe 3 years, and I remember one time, you know, went to go mark the ball and the ball crunched my fingers and went back, and geez, I couldn't hold the stick for a while. I was like, well, that made the decision. That's it. Yeah, I can't do that. So that's where, you know, like non-contact sports like tennis or golf, squash came into play.
Yeah.
You know, and but that was you know, I mean, but all the while I was just practicing and playing drums because I loved it. It wasn't like it was forced upon me. It was just something that I loved to do, and I still love doing it, man. You know.
But did you used to play the pots and pans as a kid?
No.
No? Okay.
No, I didn't do any of that.
Okay.
No. I know a lot of people would think, well, a lot of people did.
Yeah.
A lot of drummers say they did.
Yeah.
I kind of didn't.
Okay. Because I played the pots and pans, and I was really into that's my hidden secret. I used to love the drums as a young boy, but the problem was, coming from a family of 10, my parents just couldn't afford the tuition or the drum kit. And I'm not saying that people should have crocodile tears come down my eyes. Oh, it's not that. I'm just being a realist about my situation. But I really was enthusiastic. And my brother Joe, in the late 70s, had a drum kit like you in a room. And I remember we went over there and he made me clean his house because it was so dirty with rubbish everywhere. And you know that band, The Sports?
Yeah.
Okay, he was producing their first record, and they were in the lounge room. The whole band was in the lounge room and listening to the reel-to-reel recordings of "Don't Throw Stones." Anyway,
I love that song.
So I was in the back room, and I'm trying to play these drums, man. I was so wrapped that, and I just play, and he's going, and he's coming, he goes, "What's that fucking shit? Play this," you know. I mean, that's how he treated me, you know, like what? And I'm like a kid, and I'm going, "What are you?" And he's going, "No, you just play the hi hat, you know, play the hi hat."
Yeah.
And then I got it right, and I'm going, "This is awesome." And and I stayed in there for the next 2.5 hours. I said, "Joe, can I just come around?" He goes, "You live too far," you know, because I was a kid, you know. And he goes, "I'm going to put him in a shop and sell them because I need the money."
Yeah,
you know?
right.
So that was what it was like. But I'm really enthusiastic to hear drummers' stories, and hence I've interviewed Darren Ferrugia and your good self now. So it's my hidden secret. I just wanted to share that with you.
I know about your hidden secret because we've actually spoken about this.
Have we?
We talked about, I think a couple of years ago at the club. You know, like we were hanging in the band room and we're just talking. And you brought up something like, "Gee, I wish I want to learn drums, Gerry. What can you teach me?" And I think I said, "Oh, man, I've just done some of these videos for Australian Musician Magazine. You should check them out."
Yeah.
I think you might have actually found them on your own or something like that. But you did bring something up, and I went, I said, "Well, check out the vids, man," or whatever it was. But I think we've had this discussion a little bit before, but that's a great story about the sports.
Yeah.
So did Joe produce
the first album?
Was that single? The other one though. Who
listens to the radio? Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Did Joe produce that?
Yeah.
Fuck.
Yeah,
I love that stuff, man.
Yeah. In the late 70s.
That sort of stuff is like the fabric of my sort of
youth.
Yeah. Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. I grew up listening to that stuff. It was hard not to. That's right. And coming back to being from a musical family, I was lucky because, and you could testify this as well, because you got siblings, and you come from a musical family, that you're exposed to all these different influences. Like from my father's point of view, I was exposed to a lot of sort of Latin sort of music, a lot of classical sort of stuff, but it wasn't until my brother went and had guitar lessons that he introduced me to jazz. I was listening to the stuff that he was bringing home, all the while I was listening to what was on the radio, like Van Halen, rock, Kiss, rock, whatever was on the radio, I was listening to. But I was also a big Beatles fan too, and so was my brother, and we collected all the Beatles records as best as we could. In fact, I think he's still got them at his place.
Beautiful.
So those influences, that are coming at you at these sort of random access points, build you as a musician. And you can recall stuff.
That's right.
That's right. The fact that you just said the sports. I mean, when you said that, the first song that popped in the head was "Who listens to the radio?"
Exactly.
And now, there's that instant sort of recall.
I mean, they had some great hits in the late 70s.
Great stuff. Great songs. Yeah. Well, Stephen Cummings, wasn't it?
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Yeah.
He went on and forged a solo career, and but it was just that our upbringing. I had so many different influences musically in that house. Because it's funny how some of this stuff comes out at random points. Like you might be doing like a. I might be doing like an Italian gig or something like that, right? Like doing a wedding. This is years ago, right? And they're going to play a traditional Italian song. And, okay, you're right, And mind you, my first sort of gig in a band was playing in an Italian band, but playing percussion when I was about 18 or 19, right? So I was exposed to all the repertoire, So then they say, it's a bossa nova sort of thing. Okay, great, And then they play the song, and I'm singing along. I'm actually mouthing, like not knowing what I'm saying because it's in Italian.
Yeah.
But they're looking at me going, how do you know this? I go, well, when I was 18, 19, I was in a gig where, man,
That's it.
we had to play this sort of stuff.
That's it.
And it's just it's in the random file, my RAM, random access memory. And I kind of draw, same with sort of, 80s pop songs.
Yes.
Because that was my era of growing up.
That's right.
The 80s stuff. Yeah, so none of that stuff's a surprise for me when all these young whippersnippers are playing stuff from that generation because they love it. They've discovered how kind of cool it is, and some of the tunes. Look, there was a lot of shit as well back in the 80s, we've got to admit, right?
Absolutely.
But there was some really good stuff that was being produced.
In the early 80s, there was some. We went from the punk to the new wave. We saw that new wave era come through, and then it changed again towards the mid to later part of the 80s. It became more rock. So there was these three main elements that they morphed into each other on the and the business was big. There was gigs. There was it was an industry. Because when I met you, I don't know if you recall, you came to Woodstock in the late 90s to do the Bachelor Girl. It was the Bachelor Girl session, right? Yeah. Was that? Yep. And that was 2 days. Is that, if I remember correctly? Yeah.
Yeah, man, you got a great memory, man. I mean, that was 97. Do you remember it was 97 or 98?
It might have been 98. Yeah, you're right.
It might have been 98 because I remember walking into that studio and lugging my gear, and I remember there was a whole rack of snare drums. There was like all these snare drum cases, and I kind of just looked. I go, whose are those? And I opened one of them up, and it was like a Ludwig Black Beauty or something, or something else. It was like bloody, a surprise in each one.
That's right.
And from memory, it might have been you that said this or someone else. They said, they're Watto's snare drums. He's doing this, he just leaves them here. I went, great. Yeah. Anyway, so I remember whisking in my gear into that studio and setting up for the Bachelor Girl stuff, thinking that I can have access to those snare drums too, which from memory, I don't remember if we did.
I think you did. I think you did use some of we alternated some sounds and stuff. Because the engineer was that guy, what was his name, Roach?
James Roach,
James Roach.
Yeah.
Because
the Bachelor in Bachelor Girl.
That's right. And he was ahead of his time because he was already sampling at that stage. He was using sounds and manipulating the sounds. And I was a bit, as an assistant, because that's all I was back then, I saw a little bit of that from Phil Rudd from Split Ends. He came in one day and he had an old Atari, which we were wearing a T-shirt. He had one of those old Atari. Yeah, there you go, mate. And he was doing some film soundtrack stuff, and he was wanting to run it through an analog. All the stuff that he had on the Atari, he wanted to run it through the analog desk. So I patched it all out for him, and he ran it up on the faders, and then we mixed it down to a DAT tape, basically. But that was the first time I ever experienced music being computerized, and until you guys came in, and but James had already taken it, because that was 2 years after I worked with Mike Rudd. Yeah. And James had taken it to another level, because you could see the extension of that, because the technology.
So I remember those sessions really clearly, or those 2 days that we did to track the record, because James, my drum kit setup was my acoustic setup, which was like, pretty much the same setup I got back here. 2 racks, 1 floor. It might have been 2 floors, I think. I can't remember. But in amongst the kit, I had an electronic kit. So I had, because James wanted to do like passes with the acoustic kit, so capture that. But he also wanted me to play the MIDI pads or the electronic pads that I had, and I had it around the kit, so I didn't have to like turn to here and play the electronic drum kit here, then turn to the acoustic. It was all in the one spot. Man, I wish I had a camera to take a picture of this kit, because it was incredible. The setup was fantastic, Yeah. And what James did with all that stuff was. I mean, it was all. And here's the other thing that people don't know about that record. I already knew those tunes, because I was part of their band, which showcased to get their deal. Yeah, so right. I knew a lot of those songs already. I think there was probably maybe 1 or 2 new songs that was thrown at me. Okay. That James workshopped. We want this, we want that. Great, no problem.
How did they find you though, Gerry?
I used to play in a band with Tanya.
Okay.
With Doka, and we had a residency at the Someplace Else bar, and down there on South Bank, which was the what hotel is it now? Is it the Langham? Yeah, it was actually called the Sheraton before that. I think it was. Okay. Anyway, I used to play 2 nights a week with her. It was like a Friday night and a Saturday night. Okay. A great band. It was a great band actually. Yeah. And then all the while she was riding with James. Yeah. This stuff, and then I know they had, and when it came to tracking, they tried someone else first, and because James wanted to do it all on an electronic drum kit, so he could use his samples, use the MIDI information to trigger his drum kits or his sounds, So I remember getting the call to go around to his place. Yeah. First, this is before we got into Woodstock, and there was an electronic drum kit there or whatever it was, and he got me to play it, and I think that was like the audition to see what you could do on this thing and try and make it feel good. Yeah, right. Wow. Yeah, and I mean, I didn't know that at the time, but looking back on it, that's probably what it was. Yeah,
Yeah, because I remember him getting you to play just single hits.
Oh, single hits, yeah.
Single hits,
because that's the way everyone does it now. It's like you might do a whole take on your drum kit.
That's right.
And then the engineer goes, okay, I just want single hits just in case I need to replace.
That's right.
Whatever.
That's right.
So you're right. James was well ahead of his time.
He was well ahead of his time.
Yeah. So when we tracked the record, I remember, we would do like 3 takes or 2 or 3 takes on the acoustic kit. And then I'd do the same take again on the MIDI kit with the live cymbals.
Yeah.
Okay. So he had so many options to work from.
That's right.
As far as sculpturing a sound and stuff like that. And it would have been the really early times of Pro Tools.
Yes,
too.
it was.
I don't even know what. Might have been 4 or whatever. I'm not really sure. But it was early. It was early,
yeah. Yeah.
But I remember Woodstock, they shot the video clip for Buses and Trains upstairs.
They did, yes. I remember that.
On that
on that couch, because they asked
me
to have dinner upstairs and don't wash the dishes because they wanted to make it look like someone had lived there.
And you're obliged, right? Yeah, man, you guys can wash it when you're done.
I did. But who was the record company? B&G, was it? Or
BMG, yeah.
Glory days.
I'm really proud of that.
Yeah.
Of the stuff because people, they don't. I walk through a supermarket sometimes, man, or whatever, and Buses and Trains comes on.
Yeah, that's right.
And it's just like, far out. Okay, yeah, right, great. And I nudge my son, going, "Yeah, hey, look, that's me, the old man."
Yeah.
He goes, "Yeah, I know, Dad."
But you know what?
I know, Dad.
But I've got to admit, there was a vibe in the late '90s. There was a vibe in Melbourne, wasn't there? I thought there was anyway. Like the music scene was vibing. It was. And then I don't know. The whole transition to the digital age has been beneficial, but it's also been destructive for the industry, I think. It's it's a funny thing.
Yeah, I think when iTunes hit the scene, everybody was going, great, man, I can have all these songs on my thing, and it's going to cost me 99 cents to download a song and all that sort of stuff. And I was horrified, thinking, do you know how much it actually costs to make a recording?
Yes.
It ain't 99 cents.
No, that's
I can tell you that much. It's not $2.
No.
So I just thought it was going to be a convenience.
Yeah.
But in the long run, I just thought, and look where we are now.
That's right.
It didn't get any better.
No.
It's gotten worse.
That's right.
And so making money out of recordings or sessions now just don't exist, man.
They
don't. Doing albums for people.
That's right. With budget.
I'm trying. I'm just trying to think. The last album I did for somebody, for a record company, might have been about a couple of years ago, maybe.
Yeah.
But I do stuff from home.
That's right.
And then send it to people. Then that might end up on a record.
Yeah.
So it's just the age we live in now, Pete.
Right.
It's. But you're right. Towards the end of the '90s, there was a lot of stuff. There was a lot of playing going down, and I think the scene was. Musically was kind of happening. I mean, it's still happening now.
Yeah,
but it
was a different thing. It was a
different thing. And I was in my when the Bachelor Girl thing came out, that was I was 27, 28, 29.
Because I remember you. Because I remember we sat out in the foyer, and I realised you were a Carlton supporter. And then I said, he's my brother, man. He's a Carlton supporter. We've got a lot to talk about.
Yeah, I know, right?
That's it.
But it's that whole thing of just with that Bachelor Girl thing. I mean, I was actually playing with Tommy as well. I was playing Tommy's gig, and James Roche had done a lot of stuff with Tommy. So I think that connection probably helped with that as well.
Yeah, sure.
But it's a tricky one, But I was definitely, it's one of my proudest of recordings.
Yeah,
totally. I'm really rap with that. I mean, and we played a fair bit, but not as much as what I thought we were going to play.
Yeah, what happened? I mean, because you had a hit, and usually when you have a hit, you end up touring.
I'll just correct you.
Yeah.
They had the hit.
Yeah.
I didn't have the hit.
Well, you collectively you all had a hit, right? And but that would usually take you off, and you'd get interest maybe internationally, maybe
Yeah.
Did that happen or?
Yeah. It did. From what I understand, they were on. I think they were on the cuff of breaking it in the American market. But then I heard a story that the A&R guy got replaced at the label and just went, no, don't want that.
Yeah.
I think that's the story. I'm happy to be corrected, like really happy to be corrected, because it's a story that is so common amongst artists.
Yeah, yeah.
It's like a lot of great people who make great albums.
It's like a horse race. You're almost to the line, but you're not.
Yeah.
And it's only an inch,
Yeah, that's all it is, man. You pipped at the post.
Yeah, pipped at the post. Yeah.
And because it's definitely no detriment to the. It's not a thing on the product.
No,
the product was great.
Yeah, yeah.
The product was world class.
That's
it
right.
really was, man.
That's right.
Actually, those hits like Buses, Treat Me Good. I think there was another third one. Oh, lucky me! I didn't play on that one, which I'm not really sure if I did or not. I don't know. Because sometimes I hear the snare drum sounds and things like that. And I go, they might have been my samples, but I'm not really sure. I can't. I'd have to talk to James Roche about that. Who's we've actually been in contact the last sort of year or so. We've reconnected.
Terrific.
Yeah, and we were talking about some of this stuff actually, but that was one point I wanted to raise with him, and just I just want to know, man, was that are they my samples? I mean,
that's it.
Who knows? It might have been 3 snare drum samples on the one thing.
Yeah.
But my point being is those 3 songs were mixed in LA.
Yeah.
And you can hear there's a slight difference between the singles and the album tracks. Not much.
Yeah.
Not much.
You don't reckon not much?
Nah.
No?
I think it's. I think the way Roshi kind of mixed the other tracks was on par.
Yeah, right.
I think.
Oh, that's good to know. That's good to know. Because I know, having started in the mid-90s, engineers used to have a complex about English and American engineers, and saying we're not as good as them. But actually, Australian engineers are just as good, I reckon.
Totally. I reckon if you've got a good set of ears, and you've been exposed to a lot of music, which a lot of great engineers have been.
Yeah.
I mean, what a drum kit's supposed to sound like.
Right.
You know what a bass is supposed to. You know where it's supposed to sit in the mix.
Yeah, that's right.
When you listen to it, it's when I see sometimes young cats, and I'm nearly 50, right? So I figured out I've been playing professionally for close to 30 years.
Yeah.
Right, so I reckon I'm kind of got the right to kind of state an opinion as far as this is concerned. But when I'm working with young engineers, sometimes they got no idea of where things are supposed to, because they haven't listened too much.
That's right.
That's right. And my constant battle is when I go and do a take and go into the control room to have a listen. I know they've got to take care of their ears somewhat, but nothing's
exciting.
There's no vibe.
It's no excitement.
Nothing.
Yeah, I know.
Nothing, man. Nothing. Just turn the volume up a little bit, because I'm in the room sweating it out.
Yeah. I'm trying to give you something.
Pumping in my... Yeah. Just pull up a rough mix. Just pull up a plug-in or something and just EQ the kick drum and snare drum. That's all I want. Just make it punch.
Yeah, that's it.
Get me excited. And I walk in there and it's like... I turn to the rest of the guys in the band and I go, can you guys hear that?
Yeah.
Because I think I'm going deaf. Yeah. And I go, nah, man, can't hear it. I just nudged it.
Because what they concentrate on now is post-production. It's not about...
That's exactly right. That's exactly right, yeah. Which is, I get it, but at the same time...
You want a vibe, and that's the thing they miss out.
You got to capture...
The vibe.
Yeah, you got to capture a performance. That's... Or else you got nothing in post-production.
That's right. And that's what I found with my own music when I was recording it. My first song that I wrote at Woodstock, I got some amateur musicians to help me, but one guy who helped me actually was pretty cluey on computers, which I wasn't in terms of this is at the same time you were doing Bachelor Girl.
Wow.
And I remember we were up all night, and I called a few musician friends who I knew had come in and used the studio, and Joe had a Les Paul Gold Top in the studio, and we had this pedal board that you could plug in to the Hammond. It was a pedal board for the Hammond. You plug your guitar into this machine, and then you get that tremolo sound of the Hammond through the guitar. So I recorded that, and we wrote a song around that, basically, that sound. And we were up till 5 o'clock in the morning, 6 o'clock in the morning, and then I had another session to set up by 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock in the morning, and I was rat shit. And I hadn't slept, and I couldn't sleep. I was so excited about this song that I had to go and seek medical help and get sleeping pills just to rest, because I was so pumped about the vibe, and so was everybody else. We couldn't wait to get back in there because we thought this is great fun, and that's what I reckon people are missing sometimes. I'm not saying that doesn't exist, but that excitement of making something collectively is really important,
Totally, man. And and these days it's very rare that we track together, And when I do with a bass player or guitar player and keyboard player at least in the one room, albeit I might be in the drum booth, but I can still see them.
Yeah.
And, man, there's nothing that can replace that.
That's
it
right.
really isn't.
That's right.
Because you're feeding off each other's playing. And look, that's the thing that, doing tracks from home or for other people, I try and capture. I try my utmost best to make it sound like we're all recording in the same room.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So for me, it's if I listen to a particular piece of music, and I hear the guitar player and they're kind of gentle on it.
Yeah.
I'm going to play gentle on it.
That's right.
Because I know if I play really hard, they can turn it down, but the velocity's wrong.
That's right.
You know what I mean? It's out of balance.
I know what
it's
you mean.
like there's no way you'll be playing that hard when everyone's playing gentle.
It's black magic, mate. It's a black art. It really is.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. And I've because I've been doing this sort of thing for a long time, I've kind of honed the skills and to realise, I need to play it with this sort of intensity.
That's right.
And then fingers crossed, whoever's mixing it
understands,
gets that same gets that same approach.
Totally.
But it's all good. It's all good, man.
It's all good. Hey, it's been great talking with you, buddy. It's been fantastic.
Yeah, man.
So,
I wish I was there. I mean, I
know. It would have been better if you would have been here, but, we can do this. It's not the end, you know what I mean? We've got plenty of things I've missed out on because we've been talking for over an hour.
Well, we didn't talk about my Maltese background, man.
Your Maltese background?
Yeah, Well, my background was my neighbours were Maltese, Gerard and Malita.
Well, because, in Egypt, where you came from, which was...
my father came from Egypt, yeah.
Yeah, but that was a place called...
Port Said.
Oh, right. But there was, in Egypt, after the Second World War, I think, or even after the First World War, you had Italians, Maltese, Greeks, schools in that area.
Yes.
And depending on... You could be Greek, but you could have gone to a Maltese school, or you could have gone to an Italian school, or whatever.
That's true.
Or French, or
That's
whatever.
True. Yeah.
It was incredible.
On. Yeah, my father went to a French college.
Yeah.
And he could speak... My father can speak 5 different languages.
Totally. I mean,
because of that.
Can he speak Maltese?
Well, he can. I can. It's not that hard, Peter. Hey, come on.
All right, mate. Thank you very much once again.
Oh, yeah, Pete.
It's been awesome, brother.
You take care, all right?
You too.
When voodoo strikes, it'll tear apart your head. When voodoo strikes, you wish that you was dead. When voodoo strikes, It'll tear upon your head when voodoo